This is the Southern Collective Hunting Podcast, the underground voice of the Southern hunter. Whether you're watching live, catching it later on YouTube, or listening on the go, we are glad you're here. Let's get after it.
All right, welcome back, everybody. We're going live again. This is quickly becoming perhaps one of my favorite things that we now do because it's so engaging. I love hearing from you guys. I love interacting with you guys. And when our software offered this, it's something that I immediately gravitated to, and now it is the backbone of Thursday nights here for the SoCo crew. So, gentlemen, we are here. The summer is rapidly flying by. I know we're all busy with work, family, trying to get ready, and that's kind of today's topic. We're going to be talking about summertime preparation. It's kind of going to be an open-ended dialogue, but Brett has been the guy. Honestly, he might be the only guy in the crew that's actually in the woods right now. The rest of us are doing the more admin type stuff, the stuff you can do in the garage at 9 o'clock at night. So, gentlemen, how are we doing today?
Good. Very
Awesome.
good.
This is cool. I'm excited. Brett has high-speed internet now, which means he's just like, he's there.
Shoot.
He's on a MacBook right now, guys. I mean, we have
Y'all don't realize how funny
far this has come.
Yeah, how far this is. Yes, absolutely. Have you been in the woods a lot right now lately, Brett?
I've been in the woods as soon as turkey season went out. I've been in the woods every single Friday for at least 8 hours.
Awesome.
wow.
I have not. It's hard, man. It's not that it's hard to find the time. No, it is hard to find the time. It's not hard to find the motivation. Finding the time is a hard thing at the moment. Like summertime always feels super reserved for family and work and all the things you've been putting aside. You know, I've been spending the summertime though on a different side of things, trying to get back in shape because that did so much for me this past season, just being in shape. So I'm excited about that, but I had the itch. I told you guys the other day, I took a picture of all my cameras. I was like ready to go. And I started thinking, I was like, man, I'm going to go to Walgreens or Walmart and buy SD cards. I need to order them on Amazon because that's a stupid expense to have to buy batteries not on Amazon. So I went and bought some Amazon ones. All that came in, so I'm about to be right there with you, Brett, but I have not spent any time in the woods. That's right. Not spent any time.
Yeah, so the Fridays have been working out good for me because the wife's still going to work all day. Child's in daycare, so that really leaves a Friday for me to do what I want to do. I pretty much want to be in the woods anytime I can do what I want to do. So I just been doing that on Fridays and then keeping the weekends to do yard work because I'm way behind from turkey season. So I've been catching up on that. But yeah, Fridays have been good for me just because they're gone doing their thing. So I'm not really missing out on anything per se.
All Walter's been thinking about is sheds and not like buck sheds.
No.
She sheds, actually.
Yeah. I'm trying to set a record for the total amount of brownie points I could ever go into a whitetail season with. And I think if this doesn't set the record, it might be time to just hunt for a living and just deal with the consequences afterwards because every day I come home and I work on that dadgum shed. I've almost got the exterior done. I think next week we're going to have all the siding up, and then I can just breathe for a little bit, and we'll work on the interior afterwards.
So you got Brett. I mean, dude, you've been in the woods a lot, but you've been shooting a lot too. So like, I was going to say, me and Walt have been really trying to work on doing that, but you've already knocked that out too. So I think you're in the lead in our tournament, right, or in our contest right now.
Yeah, for the moment, we'll see.
Yeah.
You know. But I've been able to, I kind of put maybe an unrealistic expectation on myself this year after my heartbreak in Missouri. I have nightmares about it still, but I plan on trying to get at least 6 rep shots every day until the start of bow season. So for the last 12 days, I've shot every day, at least 6 shots. I shot earlier when I first got home, just to get those in. And I've already found a little couple little kinks in my bow I had to fix,
Ooh.
and that was good. And I got it now where it's shooting really, really well. So feel even better than when I shot the first challenge shots.
You know, we got a lot of this last chance archery stuff that to tune and bow presses and vices and draw boards and stuff. And I've been real nervous. I've been like hesitant to do anything because I don't want to mess things up. You know, like we got really nice bows. I don't want to mess crap up. And so I watched my buddy Jared from Citizen Archery kind of set it up initially, and I really watched hard. That was last week. Like I watched really closely because I wanted to know everything that he was doing, and I learned a ton. Like being able to watch somebody that knows what they're doing with the intention of I'm going to do it myself the next time. So this week I've been like just kind of tinkering, you know, like doing little things. I switched over the from performance mode back into comfort today and went and shot. And dude, I mean that makes.
Big
I thought
difference.
I thought I was just gonna be tough and like, oh yeah, I'm gonna do performance because yeah, you know, whatever.
Because we got
Go
short
hard.
draw lengths and we need
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, I need it because exactly. And it sounded like a great idea, and probably in the woods it would be a good idea. Like as far as deer season, it's probably fine, and it does shoot stinking fast. Like it feels like it's way faster in that performance mode. But man, I went out and shot like 12 shots today in comfort, and I felt so good about it. Like I don't think I'm ever gonna go back
Yeah, I
to
mean,
performance.
I feel like I'd rather have the accuracy of making a good shot instead of really straining and losing what they say are approximately 8 feet per second you gain or something, 8 to 10 on
Yeah.
performance. I'd rather lose that and be more comfortable and better shot execution than to have that little extra.
I mean, shoot, I'm using mechanicals now, anyways. Like friggin' just whatever. Just it is a funny thing though. Like I've been so like anal about how I'm shooting, and now I know I'm gonna put mechanicals on it. I'm gonna put those severs on it. That's what I'm gonna start the year with, and I'm just like, God, this is good. This is all right for now. Like I'm not worried about nearly the same amount of stuff. I don't know if it's a good thing or a bad thing, to be honest with you, but I feel more relaxed.
I'm definitely getting back into the archery thing. This has kind of been a weird revival for me of sorts, because when I started bow hunting and I was like 15, for like a solid like 10, 12 years, I was bow only, and I just lived and breathed it. And I just kind of got bored. I think I kind of hit this point where I couldn't do more without certain equipment. I was just kind of limited there, and being able, and the shops here are just not like great, which is not a new phenomenon for anybody. I think if we're being honest, there's probably only a couple great shops in every state, and if you're not close to them, then it's kind of a pain in the butt. And so now that we have this bow press and everything, I'm really looking forward to setting up that Proven 34. I've got my Diamond Deploy ready. I stinking love that bow. I talk about it way more than I should for what it is, but it's a great shooting little bow, and so that kind of gives me the peace of mind, Parker, to kind of like take my time getting that Proven set up, because I can afford to completely screw it up and have to go all the way back to square one. And as long as I don't dry fire the daggum thing or do something really like outrageous, okay, cool. So if I adjust the cam lean too far and draw it back and it pops off, I put it in the bow press and I put the string back on there. You know, like I've got all the stuff. So I'm really looking forward to in the coming weeks being able to, you know, really dive into like just getting that thing shooting bullets. And Michael Hunsucker makes it look really easy on YouTube, so I'm certain it is.
Shouldn't you be
Let
doing
me
it the
know when you
opposite
get
way?
ready.
What you
Shouldn't
mean?
it be the opposite way, Walt? Like you should be using that deploy as your like fiddle fart, learn how to do it, bow,
Well,
and
you could say that. However, I got two counters for you. Brett already tuned the deploy for me, so there's very little
Okay.
to fiddle fart with.
okay.
But then the second thing is, the whole purpose of that Bowtech is that everything is so easy to adjust on it that it should
True.
just be ground zero anyways. So
Yeah, it is.
I'm not. I think I'll be fine either which way.
I'm gonna feel like such a hard butt whenever I learn how to tune my Bowtech bow, and then at some point somebody's gonna ask me to tune their Matthews or their Hoyt or something. I'll be like, I don't know. I just used AI, you know, pretty much.
Yeah.
YouTube University.
Yeah. So
mean,
I
that's
saw
a good way to start.
Ben.
don't know
Ben said
anything.
we're 1 week closer to the velvet hunt, and I told myself 2-3 years ago that I wasn't going to do it again, and here I am, planning on doing the velvet hunt again. So, I mean, that's in like 2 months. Holy crap! Oh, yeah, I am wearing glasses. I forgot to take these stupid things off. These are my blue screen, whatever they are, blue light glasses for when I'm working, looking at the computer all day. Thanks for pointing
Hello,
that out,
fools.
Michael.
I'm loving how this is quickly becoming something that people just jump on just to say, hey, they don't. We know I can look at the analytics. I can tell that people don't watch the live the entire time. It seems like people come back and watch chunks of it. But the fact that people take the time to stop in, this is an absolute blast. So.
Daniel asked why would I feel more relaxed with a mechanical in my setup. It's because mechanicals fly better. That's what I mean. That's what I'm talking about. Like, I would when I was using the cut on contact single bevel stuff, which I had bad experiences with that last year, towards the beginning of the year last year. So kind of made a switch back just for my peace of mind, and that's part of it. It just it tunes easier when you got a mechanical on it. You don't have to be nearly as you can be if you want to be, and it's advisable. And I probably will be once I really learn how to do this, how to really set up my bow and be like pay attention to detail even with mechanicals. It's just not nearly as crucial. That's all I'm saying about that.
Man, the comments keep coming in. So let's dive into some meat here for a second. Kind of tee up this dialogue. You know, Brett, you've been breaking down some public land, some new to you public land that you know there's some good deer on. Chicken Buck proved that this year. He kind of did the groundwork for you. Isn't that where Chicken Buck killed on his? No, it's not.
No.
Okay, you heard through the grapevine that there's good deer in this area. but in your fashion, the Brett that I grew up knowing was that he didn't turkey hunt. Turkey hunting was stupid. The months of February, March, and April were ground and pound, get it done, chasing burns, looking for rubs and fresh trails. You don't have that luxury on this piece of public. And so I'm genuinely curious, what has your approach looked like this summer to set yourself up for success? Because you love to scout no matter what, but it's very clear that you really like that immediate postseason to do most of your scouting. So how do you feel like you're still being productive?
Well, your most productive time is right after season still, but being this is a new piece of public, I think any time is productive because you don't know the roads, you don't know where access is, you don't know what the actual terrain looks like on the map. Like going to different place, habitat could look different on maps, and once you get in there and see what that looks like, and then you can really look at a map and see it for what it is, I guess. It's like, for instance, this place has swamps. So, looking at a map, you can have a gray swamp, but you can also have spots in it that are green and yellow. Well, what I've come to find out after putting boots on the ground is the gray part is going to be a lot more shallower, and anywhere you find the green and like yellow looking like cypress trees, if you will, it's going to be deeper holes in the swamp. So you can, once I step foot out there, I realize that. Now I can look on a map and see, hey, maybe I can cross here. This is a pinch point. This is going to pinch deer to this side of this swamp versus the other, and things like that. So just learning the habitat, what it looks like on a map, learning the roads, where you can access, where is the hard to access spots, where the thickets, where the more places other people are hunting. Because I'm also looking for a hunter sign, and I always mark all hunter sign with a black pin anywhere somebody else is hunting, and kind of look at it how a deer would get around, traverse that area, or getting around them.
That's been one of the we've already started recording for the No Days Off series and talking a lot about summer scouting. That's just a pretty big part of it. And for the most part, in all the conversations that I've had with guys who are, killers, that's what they're using summertime for, is just confirming things with their eyes more than trying to find specific deer. Now, some people do have some things that they're doing in the summertime to try to find a specific deer or find where he's spending the summertime at so that they can plan a hunt early season for a specific deer. But for the most part, people are just putting eyes on, if they're going somewhere new, they're just covering ground, like doing the things that you're talking about with like the cypress. Now that you know what it looks like on a map, you know exactly what you're looking at, whereas you would never know that. Same thing in the mountains here. We got mountain laurel. Some people, if you don't know what mountain laurel looks like on a map, then you waste a whole lot of time and have a very tough morning trying to go in blind to a ridge with mountain laurel on it. You know, so it's definitely a common thing when talking about summer scouting. And I think somebody on the polo group or one of the groups said something smart one day, referring to me about something that I said about summer scouting is a waste of time, and making it sound like I said exactly that, and I didn't exactly say that. If you already know where you're going to be, you've already been in a lot of these places, and that's all you're really planning to do for a particular season, then it's a step that I'm a little more willing to take and be a little more relaxed in the summertime. That's all I mean by that. I think you're proving that with what you're saying. You're just really going to, because you know what deer like, you know what they want to be, and even if the sign isn't there right now, are you trying to find historical sign? Like, are you looking for much of that?
Yeah, so I'm looking at this landscape. I plan on trying to hunt it early season because it opens up earlier for me. So I'm looking for somewhere I can bow hunt early season. So I'm looking for that. But I'm also looking for spots come to rut. I'm looking for the thickets and historical sign. And I think a lot of people make a mistake when you get in a area that looks good, that you know deer should be. And I think people make a mistake in the summertime. It's not always about putting a bunch of miles on. If you will slow down during the summer, because the sign is harder to read, if you know how to read sign already, and you know you've been hunting a while, if you'll slow down, you can still see a lot of the stuff you could have seen right after season. It just is a little harder, but sometimes you just have to slow down and really zigzag in the area and walk it out, especially in flatland, because just figure out where the deer are funneling through the area at, more so than terrain. I feel like you can move somewhat quicker to a certain point, then slow down. But a lot of flatland, you have to walk near about all of it, I would say, to really understand how they're using it. So I like to slow down when I get in those type of areas. Like I may spend 4 hours in a 5 or 6 acre spot. Like, I mean, I slow way down, walk every single trail. I map every trail. I pick trees while I'm in there. Just access the whole 9 yards. When it's something I see that this is a rut spot, there's tons of rubs from the last 3 years or scrapes in here. I can see where they were. Or if I'm looking for something early season, I'll do that. I'll really slow down and break that area down.
Brett, don't gloss past that. You found an area that you broke down on Polo, and you talked about the traditional pinch points that were found in that area, and you went to great lengths to show everybody in our Digital Deer Camp group why you picked the area that you did. So you said you slowed down. I know that's important, but for a lot of people, I'd love for you to reiterate what you encountered and why you picked where you picked to put that camera, because it was very. It was like a veteran move. I was listening as I went. I was like, I would have 100% put those cameras in all the spots. He said he didn't want to.
Yeah, for that area, there's a swamp right there. Hidden on the other side of it, there's let's say some thinned out pines with real thick understory about waist to chest high. Just a lot of privet growing up and little sweet gums and things like that. So I ended up going in the swamp. I jumped some deer. I seen some trails. I walked a little old dim trail that's growed over right on the transition of that swamp and those pines with all the forage out there, which is where I expect the deer to be this time of the year, trying to get protein. and I picked there was two big trails that come out of the swamp and went in there. And so I walked those trails, and I would come back and I walked every single trail out, and I got in the swamp and walked every single trail. And there's a deep part in this swamp, in about a 20-yard area. There's a big trail where the deer are funneling through there. Traditionally, you would want to put your camera there, but what I found is on both sides of the swamp there was a trail and a trail in the funnel, but all the trails ended up leading to this one big trail. Like, I found 6 trails in the swamp over a 300-yard span in the swamp, and every single trail angled into this one 15-yard section, and they were crossing out of that swamp. There was a big scrape right there on the transition. You could tell that they hit. It's right there on the main trail, and they were going out in those pines. But all the trails led to this one area. So instead of putting it into Pinch Point, which was only 50 yards to my left, I put it in this spot because all the trails led to this area versus 2 trails in the funnel. There was 6 trails coming into this one small area where they were crossing out of this real thick, I don't know what you would call it. I don't know if it's like gallberry thicket. Just there's like a stem every 2 inches, and it's like 15 yards thick. And it was the one spot that was a little more open where they could just kind of walk through there, and all the deer were funneled into right there and crossing into those pines. And that's why I put it there. But I walked every trail out, and as I walked them, I tracked them. So I also picked out 3 trees for 3 different winds. And as I marked the trails that the deer were using, I figured out how can I get in there without crossing any of these trails on this wind to hunt this tree or this tree. I went ahead and marked my access with a different color track all the way through the swamp out the side I'm going to come in on the downwind side. And then I also, while I was in the area, I spent like 5 hours in this area, a small area. I picked out access from a different road into the pines to hunt the pines, maybe for gun, or if I observed something better where I could get close enough to bow hunt them. And I went ahead and picked out that access. I ended up driving around there, making sure I could access that way. Like when I broke it down. I near about spent most of my day right there in that one area. It was just, there's a good funnel right there, and I know deer are going to be using it. So I broke it down and walked every trail and mapped out all my accesses, 4 different trees, figured it all out while I was there. So when I go back, I can precisely walk in there and get in the tree that I want to get in and hunt. If that makes sense.
Absolutely.
You feel like you're doing a lot of that just because it's further away. You're just trying to make sure that you can. Are you trying to finish all this scouting and knock this place out before basically July, when you are trying to focus more at home?
I do this with every area. Every area I scout, when I get in the area that I want to hunt, I break it down. Every area like this. I want to know everything. Like, y'all know me, like, I want to know the details. If we got plans to go somewhere, how detailed, I want to know. What time every guy going to be there? Where are we staying? What are we doing? This and that. I'm the same way in the deer.
Yeah, you want to know that like 4 months early.
Yeah, I want to know every single detail. So when I go in there to hunt, I'm prepared. I feel more confident. I'm more careful. I know right where to walk. I mapped it out, like everything. I know about where the deer's going to come from. And that doesn't always happen when you get in there. But I feel way more confident in it, too, when I've already figured everything I can figure out in the area.
Mm-hmm. I get that feeling sometimes whenever I find a good spot during turkey season, because just the nature of turkey season, you're on your feet the whole time, and you can really really just go around that other ridge. You know, maybe there's a turkey over there, but just really want to see what's there. I tend to cover a lot of ground, a lot of unnecessary ground, doing just what you're talking about. And it, oh my gosh, man, the amount of good that does, being able to know what's where, even if you've only been there one time, if you've only been there once, just knowing what's there. I can think of North Dakota, you know, that's as far away as I can imagine. I've been there twice, and the places that I had been to the first time, they were pretty easy to hunt. Like after only going there one time, they're a lot easier to hunt than the places I was trying to go in blind. So I mean, there's just a lot of value in knowing what's there, even if it's not exactly where you're going to hunt. And how
Yeah,
you're going to hunt
absolutely.
it. And like I said, it seems to be a pretty common thing that most guys are doing. Like
Well-
when they're spending time in the summer in the woods, they're doing a lot of that, just confirming.
I mean, the thing for me is also like I like to try to tell people, but I know nobody really wants to hear this. You know, like for a weekend warrior, this is how you level up. This is how you put your time in now because you won't have the time during deer season, and now you can hunt come deer season. Like, I have the weekends to hunt. I get 2 vacations a year, and I do take them during deer season. But like, this is how I optimize my time come deer season. Like I know these areas. I know where I want to sit. I know how the deer are using it. Got my cameras already stationed where I want them, so on. And I've already put in the work to figure all this out. So come the weekend, I can hunt. You know.
Yeah.
Like,
I can say as a weekend warrior that the 2 best years the 2 best years I probably have had since I moved here. The first year I went summer scouting with a guy in Florida who was teaching me how Florida acts. And a couple years later, Brett, you and I went and broke down a piece of public, and I had a pile of encounters. We didn't go out every day, Saturday and Sunday on the weekend, and do a bunch of scouting. You showed me how to kind of target high odds areas, break them down quickly, decide if they were worth hunting, what the pressure probably looks like based on tree stands and hard edges like water and cutovers and stuff like that. And both of those years were years that I had some of the best hunts that I've ever had. And so that's something I'm trying to get back to this year. As soon as I'm done with the she shed, I'm going to start going. Actually, Saturday morning, I'm going to go out there for Father's Day. I'm going to take some time and go pull some long soak cameras in areas that I think are going to produce. You know, that's another factor to this. You talk about leveling up. I think long soak cameras are another really great way for the weekend warrior to get a pile of data. That is just a constant theme that we hear. Long soak cameras, whether you're a weekend warrior or if you're a Jake Bush or Brett Mashburn, you are just constantly looking at that data, letting that camera tell you what's happening in real time. Well, not real time,
Absolutely.
but over time.
yeah, absolutely. Because you can learn so much about an area, yet you may not have deer movement at all in that area. You can write it off. You may only I have a spot, and it's a good spot, but there's hardly any deer movement in there. But 1 month out of a year, it's where you want to be. You know, I wouldn't have known that if I just hunted it. I probably would have wrote it off and be like, I don't ever see deer here. You know, but long soak trail camera could tell you, hey, this spot's good this time of the year, or it's good all year, or it's a bust. Or your camera
do
could
more
just
of
be
those.
off the mark.
Yeah.
Camera could be just off the mark, and you need to scout it out a little more. But you know, I do all this scouting even on my home turf. Every year, as soon as season's out, I rewalk all the areas that I hunt to see how the deer have maybe moved a little bit, because they will. I have seen trails shift 20, 30 yards just because maybe some of the vegetation got a little taller and it ended up being a little thicker over here, and they kind of shifted over just a little bit, or things like that, or trees falling or whatnot. So it's still good to walk areas you have hunted.
You said something a while ago, Brett. You said that it levels up for the weekend warrior. It is the
Absolutely.
way that you level up, and it's really the reason, just to push for this series that's about to come out. It's the reason we wanted to do that, because I think so many people use the excuse of I don't have the time. I ain't got the time to go. I do this for myself, and I'm just assuming other people are like this. Like, if you find yourself sitting and watching a Netflix series, right? Sitting down and watching a Netflix series. Oh, guess what? You had the time. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Like, we're talking about, like, I'm doing some things at 12 o'clock midnight, some work, so that I can make space for X, for going into the woods. Or I do it more during season, because I don't have to pick and choose weekends, you know, which is a great thing. So I tend to spend most of my time doing that. But in the summertime, let's talk about running. I found that the excuse I just didn't have time to run today, it's not there, because there was an hour or 30 minutes somewhere throughout the day that I could have put on my running shoes and went and run, you know? And so I think that you're right. It does level up. And the reality is that most people still aren't going to go and do it. Not to the extent that you're talking about. They just won't. And that's great. It's fine. But it does work. It's pretty, I think you're right. It does level up big time.
Yeah, I think if there's any proof, it's definitely me, because as soon as I transitioned to doing that heavy scouting mainly right after season, and and then turkey season I don't do as much, but I still get after it after turkey season. It's made all the difference. I mean, like, big difference. Now I can go in and precisely know where to go, understand the terrain a whole lot better. I've walked a whole lot more and just seen a lot more. And the more time you spend in the woods, the better you're going to be, as a deer hunter.
Boom. I mean, I think the more times you just drive to the WMA. That's going to help you somehow, right? Like, just the more that you can find time to be in where you're at, it's just going to help.
Well, look at last year, right? So I took a couple little stabs into Georgia last year. I had like 2 weeks of season license, because in Georgia you buy your license, it's 365 days. I had like 2 weeks, and I kept bouncing around scouting. I had a really good encounter with a really big buck, hung a camera, hunted it, didn't see anything, and then realized the whole area had been clear cut. And I'm talking like clear cut, except for one little hardwood strip that I knew was pseudo overlooked. Parker, that's a whole topic I'd like to make a podcast episode, like what makes an overlooked spot. And went in there, fresh sign everywhere, like rut sign, and it was months away from the rut. So there was clearly like a good concentration of deer, because somebody's trying to lay claim to that area. We had a cold front come through the very last day that I had an active license. Got some PTO from work, went in there and killed a deer. I probably wouldn't have fixated on that area the way that I did if I didn't just drive around looking and realizing the habitat change shifted like that overnight, right? Like, that was a big deal.
Mic drop, apparently.
Yeah, seriously. Good Lord. Pass around the offering plate.
I was reading through comments. Comments that I missed. I wish that this comment thing would go up with as a new comment
it's a little
comes
funky
in
sometimes.
Yeah, but no, I think it's an unarguable thing. If anybody has a good argument against being in the woods, I'd love to hear it, but I don't think you can argue that just being in the woods, period. Even if you don't know anything that you're doing, it'll teach you something.
Yep.
I am currently I'm finding through this conversation, I'm having a hard time not referencing some of these conversations that I've had with guys for the No Days Off series. Because we've had a lot of these types of real in-depth discussions about, like, not just go out. I'm going to go out and put up trail cameras. Like, where and why this time of year? Where and why? Why are you putting up trail cameras in that spot right now when we know the deer are probably not going to be there right now? The deer that you're after, and if he is, he's probably not going to be there when it comes time to actually hunt him, because they're so shifty. They're moving places. And it's not to say that they're not there sometimes. That's not a.
I was laughing at that comment, Doug.
Yeah. It's not to mean to say that they're not going to be there, but more than likely they're going to shift. And so, I guess, Brett, with this property, you're going out there and it sounds like you're actually putting cameras out. Are you putting them out with the expectation that you are going to find a deer and then you're going to go back out and try to hone in on a deer, or are you putting cameras out with that's where they're going to be through the season?
Yeah, I'm not really looking for a deer. I'm putting them in the spots that I feel like the deer are going to be when I want to hunt them, if that makes sense. Like, I'm looking for early season spots and rut spots for both areas. I got two different pieces that I'm looking at. I had a whole handful I kind of wanted to go, and I ended up settling on these two properties. But yes, I'm basically just looking for where I can hunt them early season and where I can hunt them in a rut. And I'm putting my camera's in there, and like I told Chicken Butt the other day, like, this camera is here. It's on a white oak in this super thick island. It's like the only white oak on it. I'm not going to have any pictures on this camera. But when this white oak starts dropping in this thicket that is loaded with buck sign, it's going to be money, and it's already going to be here. And I about overheated that day because this spot, and you probably want me to get into the story, but this is, on this particular piece of Publix, the first time I ever stepped foot in there. It's just the first place that really caught my eye I wanted to look in. And it's surrounded by swamp, and on the other side it's kind of swampy, and it is thick. It looks like there's some big trees on it and that it may open up. When I mean thick, Chicken Butt calls it gallberries. I don't know if that's what it is or not, but it's just stem count that's like every inch, every 2 inches. You can't even see 5 yards into it. Like, it's bad. And this stuff is like 200 yards long to get through straight that stuff to get in there. And Chicken Butt, come to find out, Chicken Butt, well, let me keep going the story. I figured out a way in there that I didn't have to push through 200 yards of that, and part of it was crossing a swamp. I tried to go in one way, so I tried to use deer trails because they typically pick out the easiest route, right? So I found one spot, and it took me in there about 100 yards. It kind of dead end, got super thick. I found some nice buck beds in there, big rubs. Ended up putting the camera right there just to see. I went back out to the other side of it, found another deer trail that cut across the swamp, and I used it. Ended up having to push through about 80 yards of those gallberries. I get into this thick island, and there's big mature trees on it, but there's a lot of like young growth hardwoods growing up in it. You know how they are, with all them limbs. You near about have to be sitting down or on your knees to really see like 20 yards maybe. Like, you pretty much have to hunt from the ground. And anyway, so I went in this area and I walked in, and I'm like, there is nobody been in here. Like, absolutely nobody. There's no sign of anything, but it is loaded, I mean, with rubs, like, for the last at least 3 years. And I get in here and I'm following this swamp, and then there's a pinch in the back of the swamp, and I mean, I push through stuff to get over there. I look at it, and I'm just kind of bouncing around the edge by the swamp, finding bed after bed after bed, like completely beat out to the dirt in a complete ring around trees, like deer hair everywhere in them. And I'm like, man, there's nobody in here. It opens up a little bit right here, and I'm like looking. I end up running up on this trail camera, and I'm like, you got to be kidding me. Who the heck is in here? There's no sign of people. And this camera is like freaking ankle high, right? And I'm like, it's got to be somebody from Florida. I mean, seriously, I don't understand it. It's like they're looking for squirrels or something, or rabbits.
I've never heard
Hogs.
this.
So-
Hold on. Is this a thing? Do Florida guys do this?
Yes.
Yeah, it's wild.
Knee high to shin high. That's everything. It's ridiculous. But anyways,
I don't. Why?
I look at this camera and I'm like, this camera kind of looks familiar, and I don't know
Think
why.
about Chuck in Digital Deer Camp. Every one of his deer
Yeah.
pictures, unless the deer's like holding his head down, it's nothing but white underbelly and kneecaps on the deer.
Why?
I don't know.
Seems
man.
like
It's
an
a
easy
Florida
fix,
thing, dude.
man.
I
So-
guess.
I run in this
Florida
trail
guys.
camera, and I'm like, I always keep like a card reader, and I have my fast pack with my stick and a couple cameras. So I'm like, I'm about to check this camera. So I popped it open. I'm like, I'm sitting there the whole time like, man, this camera looks kind of familiar. So I put the card in. I'm looking at it, and I'm like, there ain't a whole lot of pictures. And boom, there's this big old fella on here. I look, that's daggum Chicken Butt. I was like, you got to be kidding me. And I took a picture of the camera and I sent it to him, but I put new batteries because his camera was dead, so I put new batteries in it. Put the SD card back in it, put it in and turned it on, and the camera was messed up. It wouldn't ever cut on, so I was like, because I was gonna mess with him, put my face in front, and let it take a bunch of pictures. And anyways, come to find out, he had it turned off because the batteries had died. But I texted him a picture. He's like, he didn't say much. He's like, "Oh, cool." And I said, "Does that camera look familiar?" He's like, "Is that my camera?" He's like, "You got to be beeping kidding me." He's like, "I got one camera on this whole place. It's in the nastiest spot I could find. And the first time you go out there, you find it." He said that he crossed a swamp and he would fall off waist deep to get in this place. Like, that's how nasty
Sounds
it
like
is.
chicken butt.
And I ended up finding his only camera on this whole piece of public the first time I stepped foot on there. It's pretty funny, but I got his camera working and he turned the service back on. And anyways, it was just real funny. He's like, "You got just to be kidding me."
Does it make you not wonder how many people actually walk back into the nasty stuff? It does me. Like, I'd be in a deer expo in friggin' Georgia and talking to some dude about a spot that I hunted in Mississippi, and then you come to find out, oh, we were hunting the same spot. It's like, dude, this is dumb. Like, I thought nobody was there. There's no telling how many other people were actually back there
Probably.
in these spots that we're talking about. I like the conversation about overlooked spot, Walter, because I think they're not what people think they are.
Mm-mm.
You know, and that just goes to prove it, Brett. It's like, you know what it took to get there, to get back there to that spot, and
But-
you know the other guy that did it. What are the
Yeah.
chances there's nobody else that's willing
Right.
to do it?
Well, I talked to him, and I was like, okay. I was like, here's what I see. Without him telling me anything, I said, this is what I see. These deer are bedded on this backside by the swamp. They're bedded anywhere from in the gallberries on the edge to the first 30 or 40 yards. All the beds are like that in here. I said, I'm going to go to the other side where this gallberry thicket is. And I did, and that's where I found the white oak. I said, this right here is where I think you need to set up to kill them, because you can come through this gallberry without busting the deer beds, and you can rattle them deer in because you're 200 yards in their thicket. And I mean, it is thick. This is a place you can call a buck up during a rut and make him come to you. So Chicken Butt then proceeds, he's like, well, that makes sense, because every time I go in there, I would bust deer that were bedded on the edge of the swamp, and I would bust them out of there trying to get in there every time. So when I found this one spot, found a tree you can't get in, I went ahead and cut my access trail. And this is where I about overheated. It took me like an hour and a half to make this 200-yard thing through this thicket. It was awful. I mean, awful. Like, it was bad. But I made an access trail where I could slip in there somewhat, but I feel like this is a spot you can slip in. It's right dead center, and all the deer, if you picture like a horseshoe, they're all bedded out here on this rim of this island. And I'm coming in from this way where other hunter access would potentially come, where they may be filtering out like after dark. But I'm going 200 yards in there, and they're only about 150 yards bedded away from the spot that I picked out, or potentially 100 yards. So this is a spot that I can go in during the rut. It's loaded with rut sign and rubs, where you can rattle up and grunt up a buck. And if you go in there with a gun and sit on the ground, you can absolutely call one straight to the barrel and bust them. And that's why I told him, he said, that makes a whole lot of sense. He's like, because every time I try to go in there, I bust a deer every single time I try to go in there and hunt it.
I'm just
So-
reading this comment that you just put up there, Walt. We fought our way into a piece in Ohio, came across a camera, so we put one of our hats in front of it. 20 minutes later, we get a message from a guy that lives in the same city he was living in, and it was his camera.
That's
It's
awesome.
crazy, man. I mean, the particular place that we've hunted in Kentucky, I've been to so many like when we were doing a bunch of expos last year. I can't remember if it was at Mobile Hunter Expo or I think it was at the World Deer Expo. I had like 4 conversations right in a row with different people about the same exact WMA in Kentucky.
Yep.
And I was like, frick, man, this place is gonna suck this year. Every single person here is talking about this WMA is like the talk of the town. But it's funny because we went and there was a lot of people, but it wasn't anything different. It wasn't anything different than normal.
Trevor just asked a really good question for everybody who's watching right now. Are we putting these on YouTube? Yes, we are. It's a fairly time-consuming process, but the goal is for all of these to start going to YouTube, as well as our regular podcast. Like, it's going to be a video podcast as well moving forward.
Yeah, and I think one of the things I'd like to see too is like questions being asked as we're trying. We try to have a focused conversation, but the questions really help. You know, I know for me, and I'm assuming for you guys, for me, I've done a lot of podcasts in my life, and it's very tempting not to try to regurgitate the same things that you've said in years past. But I know that there's people out there that there are pieces of information that you want to ask away, and we'll try to answer it. That's kind of why we wanted to do these lives too, is so that we could kind of get into the mind like of who's listening and the kind of questions that you got. So it's a great conversation though, and I think it's really timely for where we're at in this season. I find that a lot of times when I want to go summer scouting, I'm like, but what is going to actually be my goal in this scouting trip?
Mm-hmm.
You know, and I think what you've talked about, Brett, just being really disciplined. It can be tempting to go in and see a spot and be like, okay, I'm going to come back here in October and hunt it. This spot looks good, but sounds like you really you kind of Eberhard the place. You prep it, you know. And I've walked into the woods with you before. You're carrying those little snips. Just cut your trails in there. I don't ever do that. I got my
mind made up. I'm going.
Yeah, I don't ever cut trails. That's something that you did when we hunted together on the Patreon hunt, and I was like,
that's because the briars are so bad.
Yeah, so that would probably help.
You know, it's one of those things that Parker, you mentioned earlier. Don't let a small period of time prevent you from going, right? So, what you just said is really good. He Eberhardts that area. If you don't have that much time, like let's just say you got a couple hours to go check out the back 40, right? Like just laying eyes on that area and picking out a tree, getting in and getting out and having that opening week game plan, right? Laying eyes on this area. Let's say a big hurricane came through, right? Are the trees that I want to hunt down? Are the oaks knocked out? Somebody made a comment that we've got a bunch of rain this year, and so the acorn crop should be really good this year. Assuming a hurricane doesn't come through and knock it all down, right? I mean, combining all these little nuggets. For the last 2 years, I've done a long soak camera in this area, and only in October, I have consistent buck activity in this area, and it's right about the time that it's late October. It's right about the time the white oaks are dropping. So running in there, pulling that SD card from last year, verifying that the deer are still using that area, take a set of binoculars, hit the top of the tree. Okay, great. It's got these white oaks have acorns this year. Pick a tree and get out of there. You can do that in an hour or two, right? Or do it over the course of a couple different half-hour trips, right? Like that's that kind of information that'll build on itself. And I think I'm speaking from experience because I have this perfect mindset of I want to go in and do what Brett showed me. I want to go spend an entire day from sunrise to 11 o'clock breaking down this area on a piece of property that's an hour from my house. And the reality is sometimes that's a big ask for my family in the summer because we're balancing family time, right? Get in there, pull that SD card, check the white oaks, and get out. That's today's assignment, right? Do something. Don't just let perfect or ideal get in the way of doing something.
To answer, Cody, we will not be having a Mobile Hunter Expo booth this year, but I'm speaking at the Whitetail Roadshow in Georgia. I think it's the next weekend, the following weekend, which is going to be a lot of fun. So we're going to that. We're going to be hanging out there.
Yep, second of August, first Saturday in August.
See, Jake just put in the comment.
What'd he say?
How much water do y'all think deer need from an actual water hole? in the early season, do you think they get plenty from vegetation, or do they really rely on actual water from the creek or pond? Listen, thinking about Kentucky last year and thinking about other places, water not necessarily from a lake, puddles, like, yeah, put cameras on them. I would say put cameras on them. It's going to be a really good place to get inventory.
Anytime I put a camera on a water source that was going to be there through the summer, maybe not every day, but a lot of times you get, like early afternoon, you'll get bucks coming in there drinking water. Or early in the morning when they're getting ready to go back and lay down, getting that big drink of water where they could go kind of lay up and chill out for a while.
Springs. I'm not going to, like, the question is how much water do the deer actually need? I mean, I don't know the answer to that, but they need plenty of it. Like, every time I find a spring, like a spring puddle, it's covered up in tracks. And here's another cool thing too. Usually if you find water like in the hills, if you find a puddle of water in a hill, like a spring puddle or something, like that's something that doesn't exist around every single corner in the hills. They're going to have to go to lakes or creeks or whatever. If you can find, and oh man, I'm not going to, you can find them. You can learn how to find, you can learn how to find them.
I showed you something
awesome.
last year that I seen.
Yeah, don't show that one. And I wasn't going to talk about the other thing. Like there's
it was a gem. I just stumbled.
Let me mute Brett real quick.
I just stumbled on it.
Yeah. Don't talk about that one. But like, if you learn how terrain works, if you learn how to read topo lines and you learn how to read the LiDAR stuff, if you learn that stuff, you can have a pretty good idea of where that is going to be at without using other cheat codes. But they're I'd say water hole. I remember one in West Virginia that I found on a mountain. It was on a bench, just kind of like seeping out of an old mine, I think is what was going on. And it was just a spring that was seeping out of this old mine. And out there it's really, really steep. And you just had this little bench that came down and a little puddle of water. And dude, I'm talking about there was so many deer tracks in that little puddle of water. And when you're talking about public land in Alabama where you can't put out minerals, I know like Tennessee you can put minerals out. Where else can you? So I feel like Kentucky maybe you can put. Can you put mineral out on public in Kentucky for cameras?
I don't know.
You can do a lot of crap in Kentucky. But water sources are one of those things that's like a destination type spot that you can really do that. And they're also great places to hunt and actually sit over if it's early season enough.
You got to imagine that water's just really mineral rich too. There's a seep that I found up in North Georgia. I don't think it's a mine, but there's just this seep just off the side of this hill. There's not even like you know how like when you can tell they've been there for a while because there's like a trench or like a ditch that it's eroded. It's not even that. It's just this little like just tiny little seepage. And the amount of deer tracks that are around it, I was trying to figure out like what they were there for. I was looking up in the trees because they've got those, they're like mountain chestnut oaks. They're not real white oaks. Like the deer don't actually want to eat them, whatever they are. And so people always tell me you have a lot of these oaks on the ground that they won't eat. And there's acorns everywhere. And I left later, came back during turkey season, and the tracks were still just all over the place, right around where this little seep, and it was like right on the side of like a rock face. And I'm convinced to this day that those deer were walking right up to that rock face and just licking and taking the mineral right off that mountain.
Well, Jacob puts on here that he did a water station and it didn't get as much attention. I wonder sometimes if like what you're saying is true, Walt. You know, just like the different things that they get from a spring-fed water source might be different. I'm not a scientist. I don't know. But also, like, just the human element of it, too, right? They got to know. Yeah, it was a very important thing. And, like, I hunt a lot around water anyways, around lakes. And it does seem like um, throughout the summertime, especially. That's really important, just because I think the air is cooler. When it's really, really hot, that water does a lot more to affect the environment. You know what I mean?
More diversity.
Mm-hmm. A lot, yeah. There's usually more diversity in food around those water, the edges. You know, like
Green vegetation and water. Perfect summertime.
Yep. Another thing that can be great in the early season is persimmons, which are typically around water. You know, if you can find a standing, what Clay mentioned, standing water source. If you can find a standing water source, persimmons can be found there, usually, or not usually, but sometimes. And up through October-ish, mid-October, persimmons can be a great thing. Great
Here's
thing for
another
does
really-
if you want to shoot does, but they can be a good thing for bucks in the right spot.
Here's a really great question for you guys. What areas are you hanging your cameras, and how often are y'all checking those cameras through the summer leading into season? I think this is a great question.
Yeah, for me, like when I'm going out doing right now, like I've mentioned earlier, I'm looking for spots to hunt early season in the rut. So those spots I'm hunting early season, I'm not checking those cameras until right before I get ready to hunt, for the most part, because I'm not expecting necessarily to have a bunch of deer on it right now, but I'm expecting them to be there closer to early season. So I'm typically going to check that maybe 2 weeks before, somewhere around there. And if it's just straight dead, I may move them real quick and maybe try to find something 2 weeks before that if I struck out, or maybe I got 1 or 2 spots that did hit. So now I know I need to focus there, and I went in early enough that it should hopefully be calmed down by the time I get ready to hit it.
My idea for summer trail cameras right now is to I'm really more than anything focusing on what deer am I going to try to hunt October and November, right before the rut hits. I feel pretty okay about the rut. Like I can be pretty consistent around rut time frame. Know where to be. I'm still going to have cameras, obviously. Once we get closer, maybe in October and I'm hunting, I'm going to be moving cameras around as needed. But my ultimate goal is to find where a deer is spending time in the summer and then trying to kill him on October, the first week of October. It's like first and foremost. So checking it, like I'm going to be relying mainly on cell cameras for this. Like I kind of know where I'm going to be spending my time at, because it's the best chance I have at a bigger deer in that time of the season. But I'm going to be throwing all of my cell cameras at my first week of October, pretty much. And then I'm going to sprinkle some here and there, but I'm going to put the bulk of them in one place to try to have something to do in October. So as far as checking them, I don't intend to ever go in and check them in the summer. I'm going to scout hard. I'm going to put those cameras up where I feel like, and if I feel that there's a need to move further, or like this buck might be shifting and I can tell that, I may make some changes right there before the season starts, just to try to really dial it in. But I don't foresee that happening. I don't know. Again, I'm not a camera aficionado, so I'm just kind of playing it by ear, using what I know about an area and trying to set my expectations for. And I do know that the shift in the big woods is very, very noticeable. It's not like farmland where deer have a reason to be somewhere to be close. Like once December hits, late November, December, when the rut hits, these big woods deer are going to be moving all over the place, way further away from where I'm finding pictures of them in the camera. That's not to say that it's a hard, fast rule that they're not going to be in that same spot in December, but there's a likely chance that they won't be. So I'm really trying to build a plan for the first week right now.
What about you, Walt?
You know, I was just thinking about that big wood shift and how predominant that must be for you, because down here that's not even a concern for me. At least maybe that's why I don't kill big deer. I don't know, but
I don't think it's
to
a
me-
concern for. It doesn't seem like it's a concern for a lot of Florida guys.
It's
Right.
not a concern
Flatland.
for me at all.
Yeah, and I think that's indicative of the browse. I think it's indicative of the cover, right? You don't have these deserts. Like when I'm up there hunting with you, there are these food deserts, and there is nothing there for them, right? Besides
Pretty.
maybe security cover. They're pretty. Oh, God, they're gorgeous.
Well, maybe not security cover even. Like the places that I'm thinking of are like
Sure.
they're deserts. They're pretty to look
Yeah.
at. Open
Yeah.
hardwoods, but like not much for a deer in the daytime.
That's right. Or at night. I mean, they're
So-
just the huge areas.
Let's well,
Go ahead.
a lot of those big open woods, I do find deer in the night, in the dark. They'll because a lot of the big open woods have big, beautiful white oaks that drop juicy acorns, I'm sure. And so you'll see these trees that are just destroyed, but there's not a thick, like you can see 400 yards through the woods on any side of it. And I would say that that's nighttime sign. But I use the big pieces like that as like, okay, I know there's a hot feed tree somewhere in there, or hot feed trees is
Preferred feed tree kind of thing.
there's a tree in here that deer are hitting. I've got to find the funnel or the bedding that's the closest to that, because they're gonna, especially on bad acorn years like this last year and 3 years ago, when good luck trying to find one. But if you've got 450 out here on a peninsula, 450 white oaks, one of them's got to be dropping, and you're just assuming a lot. And so I'll find the bedding closest to that and stuff like, that's not even a super well working tactic, because it's just hard to hunt big woods deer early season if you don't know where one's at. It's hard to luck into one for sure.
I think my strategy this year is going to really pertain to so to build on that, right? I kind of feel like an area that I'm interested in finding a deer in December is where I can also pretty likely find him in September as well. Like you'll find there are these little nuances that Brett has taught me. Like, hey, all of your cameras across this entire area are popping off with mature deer this week. I don't care when the rut is. This is the week they're all cruising. That's a pattern we need to capitalize on. But one of the things I'm noticing this year, and this is kind of how I'm going to use my cameras, I talked to Craig about this earlier, is I'm noticing that the area that holds a good deer this year doesn't hold a good deer next year. When I go back and I pull these cameras, there aren't consistently for me in the same areas a big deer or multiple big deer. One example is 3 years ago, I had a scrape that was just remarkably well hit. They were fighting. You had multiple great shooter bucks on camera fighting all throughout October and November. I mean, just like you can see the dust on the spy point. And if you can see the dust on the spy point when they're fighting, you know that high pixelated dead for 2 years.
If they were
after
fighting
that.
hard enough for a spy point to pick them up, then you
That's
know
right.
that they were fighting pretty hard.
That's right. That's right.
Absolutely.
Exactly. But the camera was dead for 2 years, and the scrape went inactive, largely inactive. I had a camera on there. I had a couple does and a spike that came through. Last year, the camera popped off again, and there were mature deer in that area. And so for me, if I know that these deer kind of have a similar core area, not that there's like a pocket of 40 acres that I think they just inhabit, I'm going to put a bunch of cameras out in areas that I have in the past found good buck sign, and I'm going to try and use bow season to go in there and pull those cameras and say, okay, which one of these has that density of mature deer this year, and not really get tied into an area, because it seems to move around a lot. And it kind of makes sense if you think about this like socially, right? I'm not the only person in these areas, and so I'm not the only person getting the picture of this deer, which means outside of like I think you, me, Parker, and Matt, I don't tell people about the big deer I get. At least I don't tell them where. But I think a lot of people, they can't not share with people, and then those people can't not share with people. And so by the time it's all said and done, you got 6 guys surrounding a block. Those bigger deer die. And so that area takes a year or two to recover, and the smaller deer to get bigger. And so I'm going to just really take the summer, get as many cameras out in these high odds areas that Brett's taught me to look for, and then go in there, pull them, and figure out which one's worth pursuing. And I'm hopeful that pays a dividend this year. But it's just been very interesting for me to watch, like, and the area where you missed your big deer for 2 years, there was no rut sign in that area for 2 years. Last year, deer everywhere, rut sign absolutely everywhere.
Are you talking about the one that I missed?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
The big one, not the one with muzzleloader.
Yeah. That was a big
Yeah.
one. Just a big. It was a big spike.
Big spike. Yeah.
Big
Boone and Crockett spike.
Cole buck.
Florida Booner.
Yeah, once a
Yeah.
spike, always a spike. Hey, y'all remember that game warden? I guess you wouldn't, Brett. You weren't there. Well, you remember that game warden that popped out of nowhere that night?
Yeah, dude, and then
He just, like,
disappeared.
and then just
I think that was
disappeared into the
creepier
dark.
part. Yes.
That's so bizarre.
Oh my god, I forgot about that, man.
I have never forgotten about that. Every time I walk through the dark, it happened to me in Kentucky this year where I was walking, and it was funny because I was making a reel about the little spiders that you can see their eyes.
Yeah.
And I was like talking to myself. It sounded like I was talking to myself because I was making this reel. And all of a sudden, this game warden pops out. Kentucky State Game Warden, can I see your license? And I was like, bro. he was hiding in the bushes, waiting on me. But that dude just showed up into our circle. We were just talking,
Yeah.
and he was just like, "What's up, fellas?"
Yeah. Took the coffee cup out of our hand, took a sip, was like, hey, thanks for the hot cup of Joe. And you're like, oh, yeah, no problem. Who the hell are you? You know? But the creepy part is he gets done checking us all, and he's like, all right, y'all have a good night. Walks into the highway. A car comes around the corner, lights up the entire stretch, and he's gone. He's gone. I don't know where the man went, but it legitimately unsettled me the rest of that night. I was like, maybe that wasn't a game warden.
Chris asks
there
what
we
a
go.
high odds area is. What's a high odds area look like? I mean, to me, it's probably going to be different for based on everyone's experiences. But a high odds area is going to look like a whole bunch of good things coming together at one spot. Like if I see, it might be terrain based out here where I'm at. It usually is terrain based. Chris, I know, generally where you live at, and the types of areas that you hunt. It's gonna, a lot of it's gonna be terrain based. If you find some really good terrain features. Some really good vegetation changes. So pines to hardwoods to cutover is a pretty popular one in the South. And you find a place where all three of those things come together, and it happens to be on a bench, or there's a bench real close to it. Like those are the kinds of places. When I say high odds area, I'd say like that's the types of places where I have the highest odds of throwing a dart on one of them and expecting to see a deer there. And I can, with where I live, with my home area, you guys should be the same way in your home area. You should learn it the same way. Like, I feel like I know, especially when it's the right time of year, I know the highest odds places to be in. That doesn't mean I'm always right, but I've been able to pinpoint those. You pinpoint those early. You pinpoint them on a map. Sometimes you can see it from a map. Sometimes you don't know it until you lay eyes on it, But maybe I hope that answers your question. I'll see. There's a couple more on here.
In Florida, it can be as simple as like a 3-foot elevation change.
Sure.
Like that place that I'm talking about with those bucks fighting, it's like a 3-foot elevation change with a little persimmon tree that just kind of like hangs low enough for them to make a scrape, and there's like 3 or 4 dominant scrapes right there.
Is that the spot that's on that little hillside
Maybe.
that we walked one day?
Yeah, that's exactly what I'm talking about. It's not that much higher than everything else.
Yeah, Jacob mentions like things like cutovers, bug kills, fire, hurricane damage areas. Like they just create really good edges and really good habitat. And the reason I would call a thermal hub, whether it be in a bottom or up on top, like a crow's foot on top, that's high odds areas, because the odds that a deer is going to be traveling through on one of those ridges that dumps down into that, your odds are higher there, rather than just choosing one ridge to base everything on. You go to the spot, to the pinwheel where the odds go up. But cutovers create those. Fire, hurricanes, they all create those. I mean, and dude, a lot of those things that he mentioned, Onyx might not have it updated on their map yet. So it is definitely, this time of year is the least intrusive time to go in there and try to find it. But I just know, that we had a guy on a podcast years ago, on a Southern Ground podcast, and he was talking about high odds spots, and he's like, man, sometimes I talk about high odds spots, and it's a spot that I ain't ever even killed a deer in. How can I call it a high odds spot if I ain't ever killed a deer there? He's like, I just know, based on what's there, it's a high odds that a buck that I want, a caliber of buck that I want to shoot, is going to be here at some point. It's very high odds because I know what deer like. And so, I mean, and Brett, I know you know all about high odds spots because a weekend warrior has to. a weekend warrior who wants to be efficient,
Yeah.
you got to
You
know
want to
about
be
high odds.
consistent.
Yep.
Yeah, like for me, like I guess Parker's exactly right. You can find multiple habitats coming together, but one thing I like to find in flatland, kind of let some secrets run, but in flatland, like I like to look for maybe not necessarily all the habitat changes, but find something that's vast, like a giant cutover or a big pine plantation, and find something about it that is different and go to that spot and walk it and look.
Yeah, you're kind of like micro
It's like a
adjusting.
magnet.
You're doing the same thing but at a micro, like getting real specific. Now you found the thing and now you're going into there and trying to find all the diversity, and that's whenever it does become like one little hump in the terrain, or one little thicket, or one little fence row or whatever. Yeah, water source.
SMZ, or it could be a giant palmetto, just patch as far as you could see, but has a little high spot with a little run of trees or something in it. Just
Gap in the palmettos. You have dense
Yes,
palmettos on
opening
two
in it.
sides. Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, like a tree knocked over that's creating a funnel within that. Within that.
let
There's so many
sunlight
different things.
hit the ground, and there could be vegetation out there in the middle of it. And it's like a food plot right there in that thicket.
And if you're wanting to do that, what you're talking about is super necessary. Like being there and putting eyes on it and actually walking every possible route you can right now. Like when you're going in at that micro level, and trying to be, because you go into a thicket like that, you're risking bumping deer. Like you got to go in and be quiet, like make it count when you actually do go into that spot. And I think that's why for me, it's a little bit more attractive, to find the lines. I think, it's a little bit safer, I would say. And I have a little bit more time to devote to it. You know what I'm saying?
I like to spend this time of the year to figure that out. Like
Yeah.
I was talking about walking every trail, figuring out access where you're not crossing all their paths.
Yeah.
Does it line up for access? Because it may not. You may not be able to get in there and hunt it, but you may find a couple spots you can get in there and hunt, and it could be dynamite.
Doug's got a great comment. You were saying not just hunting the edge, but go in there and find something that says that patch of pine's different. The biggest buck I've ever gotten on Florida Public, picture of. I get a lot of pictures. I don't get very many grip and grins, but hands down the biggest main beamed, like I couldn't believe I got it on camera, happens in like this little gap in the woods that's like 30 yards wide, and the rest of the woods are just completely just monoculture. But for whatever reason, there's no trees for this little 30-yard gap, and it's got little like live oaks running around the perimeter, and it's got scrapes everywhere. It's the only sunlight patch out there, and that's just different to them. But you had to like push up in there. Like there were points where you're crawling underneath the wait a minute vines just to get back in there. But again, that was the only diversity, the true diversity in that area.
When you're talking about hunting the edge of pines, that can be so different depending on what type of pines you're actually referring to. I see pines as being like a pretty nice happy medium for the area that the places that I spend most of my time at. Your pines are not usually as open as the hardwoods. Hardwoods are almost always the most open, so they offer a little bit more cover, but not nearly the cover of like a clear cut, like a say 6-year-old clear cut. That to me is like the pinnacle of thickness where I'm at. The unfortunate thing is like what Doug's mentioning here, hunting the edge. Most of the time, that's a private edge, and I can't get through it. I can't get to it. Most of the thick stuff in the places. So I've just learned how to get as close as I possibly can to the thickest, nastiest stuff, which is almost always going to be on private land. The thickest. Now, that is not to say that I don't find a few thickets here and there. You know, you guys, where you guys came and hunted at, that was very much not a property line hunt.
Used to
And
be
so you
loaded
can-
with deer.
And you can find it. Yeah, it used to be. It used to have a lot of deer in there. Some
Just had a year to
jackwagons.
recover.
Yeah. Hey, there is a big deer in there, though. I just want to let you guys know.
Oh, I'm sure.
There's a big one in there. It's on my list.
I hope you get them, dude. That's where you should have
Um,
gone to hang those daggum cameras.
Nah. It ain't worth all that. It ain't got all that in there. But I know where I'm going, and I know where I'm spending time at. Like 100%. This year I'm spending all my time there. I can't wait. I'm so excited.
You should be. You should be really excited. Especially
You know what I
with
am
the-
right now, though, is
But-
sleepy.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's exactly where I was going. Yeah, you took the words out of my mouth. You should be excited. And I was about to say, you know what I'm excited about? And you were going to say what? And I was going to say the end of this podcast because I'm ready to go to bed.
Yep.
I
But
got a lot of scouting to do in the morning.
Well, I do want to say that I am remarkably grateful for everybody who tuned in. This has been the highest level of engagement we've gotten so far. It continues just to skyrocket. So everybody, thanks for tuning in. I do have one small ask for you. So our analytics show that the vast majority of people who consume our podcast and watch our YouTube videos are not subscribed, which means you don't know when there's new content coming out. In fact, it's like somewhere between 35 and 45% of people who consume our content actually subscribe. And it'd be great if you just hit the subscribe button. It helps us. It shows how the channel's actually growing. It helps you because you know when we're putting stuff out, you get notified when we go live. So please take the time to make sure that if you're consuming this right now, if you found us on your podcast feed, if you found this on YouTube, hit subscribe just so that our numbers grow. You know it's there, and everybody gets to go home happy because the show is free. But every time we can show a pop in growth, our sponsors are always pleased to see that.
Yeah, and I'll ask one more thing, Gabby, for maybe
Sure.
for me. Just if you like any of this conversation, share it with a friend, like just one other person. You know that all that helps us a lot and gives us a lot more encouragement to keep doing what we're doing and letting us know that y'all like this as well. So we greatly appreciate it.
Great plug.
I
Parker, you
got
got anything?
nothing else to add. You guys covered it.
All right, guys. Well, if you're listening to this on podcast, definitely stay tuned every Thursday, more or less. There might be some times during deer season we might miss one or two of these depending on who's available to run the show. But plan on every Thursday night, 8 p.m. Eastern, 7:30 Central. We're going to be live talking about something, and some of these might just be driven by you guys. So if you're listening to this on the podcast feed, definitely join us on YouTube, join us on Facebook Thursday nights. We'd love to have you. But until then, get outside, go find 30 minutes, go check a trail camera, go get something put out somewhere, and
Go
get
shoot
ready
your
because
bow.
deer season. You shoot your bow. That's right. Go
Get
shoot
in
your bow.
shape.
Get in
That's
shape.
what I'll end. Get in
There
shape.
it is.
It'll help.